Make contact, stay connected. Hey friends, Diego the Podcaster here, asking you to please subscribe today to KGRA Digital Broadcasting. KGRA Digital Broadcasting is the #1 official contact for the best paranormal and alternative digital broadcasting network on the planet. Subscribe today and get full access to all content. Watch or listen to shows in our classic vault containing all our current archives and the KGRA classic broadcasts. Use promo code Let's Find Out and save 30% on your membership. That's promo code Let's Find Out in all caps to save 30% off your membership today. Make contact, stay connected. Go to KGRADB.com. That's KGRADB.com today.
Are you curious about the unknown, the unexplainable? Do you find yourself intrigued by the mysterious and paranormal side of our world? Join us on an adventure into the world of inexplicable discoveries and investigations that may someday give us the final answer as to what may be behind the veil of reality. The borders of space and time have opened once again, and transmitting from the mountains of West Virginia, it's time once again for Let's Find Out with Diego. The universe is waiting for you.
On this episode of Let's Find Out, our guest is not your average person. He was a professional wrestler, paranormal investigator, and now he throws down some rhymes as a rap artist. This guy's shenanigans almost landed him in hot water at Fort Bragg. From unraveling ghostly mysteries across North Carolina to cracking every case wide open, you can bet he's the real deal when it comes to entertaining chaos and supernatural madness. All this plus more. Please welcome to Let's Find Out, Krash the Milkman. Mr. Krash, my friend, welcome to the show, my brother.
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it. I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, me too. And first things first, and I hate to just go straight into a power move, but I gotta know right off the top. Let's talk about Fort Bragg. You knew I was gonna bring this up the first thing because when I read the notes that you sent me, it's like there's a lot of things you can get in trouble for, and that would be the
Yes.
last place I want to get in trouble. So, was this something that happened? I mean, you almost got arrested. So, was this wrestling related? Because I know how we are sometimes. We get into a lot of
Yes.
trouble.
Yes. There was actually 2 incidents involving Fort Bragg, and we almost got arrested both times. And I still blame the general. The general's been my manager for all these years. General Rader Strader. He's the world's only 7 3/4 star general. He got people say, "Well, how can he have a quarter star?" Well, that was kind of a secret mission. He got the 3/4 star for fighting for the Falkland Islands and the Falkland British in the Falkland War. I mean, that's how he got it. Down at the Falkland Islands for the Falkland British in the Falkland War, and he was awarded that 3/4 star. Couldn't get a full star because it wasn't. He wasn't a Brit. He's a Southern country boy from here in the U.S. So they give him a 3/4 star.
I mean, that's quite an accomplishment, though. That's a great career he had.
Yeah, well, the general he was going to come in and kind of tag team with me tonight, but he got attacked by a chupacabra. The chupacabra had mange. The mange jumped on his beard. He's suffering from this mange in his beard and couldn't be here tonight. And so, General, we hope you get better.
I hope so too. Was it something that, speaking of, because chupacabras normally don't attack people, did he had like too much barbecue sauce in his beard? Was he eating ribs or something? He must have had some sort of scent.
We were eating one day, and an old chicken leg fell out from under his beard. I asked him, I said, "How long had that been in there?" He couldn't tell me. So I don't know. That's why the cat was trying to eat his beard the night before, is what he said. So you never know what's going to fall out of his beard. You remember seeing Captain Lou Albino with his beard with like rubber bands and the general's beard?
Yeah.
There's all kinds of crap in that beard. He almost needs a biohazard shirt to wear when he's out in public. It's kind of gross, but it's him.
I mean, that's his gimmick. He's living the gimmick, brother. So, getting to Fort Bragg, well, I mean, I can picture a
Fort Bragg,
lot of things.
the first time we got in trouble, this is right after 9/11. So if you remember, everybody remembers where they were at on 9/11.
Yeah.
This was a couple of months after 9/11, and Fort Bragg had shut down all their cut through streets and everything. And we were coming back from a wrestling event, and we needed to get back. So we were actually in Gimmick. We didn't change at the venue because we don't live that far from Fort Bragg. So after our match, we jumped in my Jeep and we're heading back toward Lillington. And I always cut through this one cut through from All America to back over to another road. Well, we're on All America Highway heading toward Bragg, and I started noticing all the cut throughs were blocked off. I'm like, what's up with this? And it's probably 10:30 at night. We see this huge checkpoint in front of us. All these soldiers out there, and I'm like, I don't think we can get off on Gruber tonight, General. He goes, that's fine. So we pull up to this checkpoint, and these soldiers, they were pretty on point, and they were, it was right after 9/11, so they're checking everybody. And they look at me. I'm dressed cow print head to toe. The general was dressed in camouflage in his camouflage outfit, and the soldier says, what is your business on Bragg? I said, I have no business on Bragg. We were coming back. I did not know the cut throughs were, and I was trying to explain it as I can. And he's looking at us dressed the way we were. And that's when the general opened his mouth. It doesn't matter what our business is on Bragg. I'm a 7 3/4 star general. I was like, shut up, shut your mouth.
No.
The other soldier said, what did he say? I said, nothing. He said nothing. And before I could get the second nothing out, both doors of my Jeep were open. We were jerked out of my Jeep, put up against it. Dogs were put in my Jeep. Other soldiers come up. And he said, do you have any weapons? No, I do not. Well, I happen to have, I called it a little knife. It was a Bowie knife up under the seat of my Jeep. The soldier pulls it out and says, what is this? Well, the general says, it's a knife, you dumbass. I'm like, shut up. They got our ID, ran us, put us in handcuffs, set us down on the curb. I'm like, great, we're going to the brig. Finally, their supervisor came out. I don't know what his rank was. He talked to us and said, listen, we're keeping the knife. You boys have no business on Bragg. I don't even know why the hell y'all dressed the way y'all are, but get off my base and don't ever come back again. Yes, sir. No problem. Not at all. And the general said, well, it doesn't matter. I said, shut your mouth. Don't listen to him. He's crazy. He's crazy. Don't listen to him. And he's like, we figured that. So we luckily got out of that one. They unhandcuffed us and let us go. Told us never to come back to Fort Bragg. And I've never been back to Fort Bragg with the general. Never.
See, I kind of figured that it would have been that there was a show there and y'all had a lot of heat, but it wound up just being wrong place at the wrong time.
Exactly. And the second run-in we had, we were up in the Sandhills of North Carolina. And it was during one of these hurricanes, and we were going to get out and show the people. We were doing all these crazy videos. So we went live during the hurricane. Well, we happened to pull up at this off the road in the Sandhills, and there's this chain link around this structure, and it's got all kinds of satellite receivers and stuff on it. I don't know what it was. Well, apparently Fort Bragg owned that too, and it was some kind of relay system for low-flying aircraft, and all these no trespassing signs. Well, there was cameras out there. I never even noticed the cameras. Me and the general get out there, and we start reenacting like we're being blown away from the hurricane. I might have hit him in the head with a bottle of water, doing some crazy wrestler stuff. Well, about this time, the MPs pull up. We get handcuffed again by MPs. Want to know why we're trespassing on their property. And the general said, we are not on your property. We did not go beyond that gate where it says no trespassing. So again, we were told to leave that property and never come back again. So Twice the general almost got me arrested by MPs.
Let's talk about the general because it seems that out of the two of you, he's the one that gets you both in trouble.
He does, and let me tell you, I don't know why he was fighting this chupacabra this week. Messed him up. He's been having a feud with the Russian assassin lately. This Russian assassin, I don't know if you remember him from back in the day, NWA guy, and with the Russian assassin kidnapped, he general napped the general one day. I found him covered with a Russian flag. There's a video of that somewhere on YouTube, and I found him in this junkyard, and this junkyard dog had just peed on him. But I got the Russian flag, and now him and the Russian assassin were going back and forth. And year before last, we got invited to Greensboro. There's an ice cream shop there in Greensboro, North Carolina, called Lucha Libre Ice Cream, run by these luchadors. Y'all wear a luchador mask. They serve you ice cream, and there might be some wrestling. There might be super kicks in the restaurant. It's pretty cool. They've got their own title, Lucha Libre Ice Cream Champion. We had a milkshake throwdown challenge right there, the general versus the Russian assassin. And the Russian assassin looked and said, "Look, Juan Cena." Me and the general both looked. We couldn't see Juan Cena. He took that opportunity and put some Russian red devil sauce in the general's milkshake. The general took another swallow, fell on the floor, started convulsing, couldn't finish his milkshake. The Russian assassin finished his and won that title. And we demand a recount. That was just wrong.
That's, y'all fell for the banana and the tailpipe trick on that one because that's a classic, look behind you.
We didn't see Juan Cena.
I could never see him myself. Him or his cousin, the other guy. I don't know what his name was. But yeah. So now it seems now then with the chupacabra, you had the Russians. I mean, what's next? Because it seems that he's a magnet for
next. There's a new ice cream shop that has opened in Cary, North Carolina called the Milk Lab. I like it. I like the name. It is Milkman approved. We have challenged the Russian assassin to an Ironman competition. Not me, the general. An Ironman competition.
Yeah.
General's been training. Doctor told him he needs to start walking around the block. So he got him a cinder block, put it in his yard, started walking around the block. So he's training. We're going to do an Ironman competition with the Russian assassin. And that will be live. That will be videoed. And there will be pictures. And there probably will be. We are nowhere near Fort Bragg property. So we're safe there. This is going to be in Cary. We got the Russian assassin coming up in an Ironman competition. What he doesn't know is we got ironing boards and real iron. So we're going to hit him with an iron and the ironing board. He thinks he's coming out there to run. Oh, no, it's going to be a wrestling gimmick. And we're beating him up with irons and ironing boards. Iron Man. Get it? Iron Man.
Marvel Comics approves, man. No. So,
dude, you gotta love it, man.
So speaking of, because you had the whole thing with the ice cream and these challenges, what is the flavor? What is the challenge? Is it like a death by chocolate? Is it like very vanilla? Is it gonna be like a strawberry thing? What's it gonna be?
Huge milkshakes, man, and of course, being the Russian, he wanted one with vodka sauce. They didn't have it, so he made his red. They made the general's. He wanted chocolate, so he had chocolate. But the Russian, he had this little vial of Russian, and on it said Russian death sauce. So he poured it in the general's milkshake and almost killed him. He went into seizure addicts right there on the floor. It was terrible. I almost had to call some EMSs up there, but we were good. We lived. We lived to prank another day.
No, and you lived to tell it here right on Let's Find Out with me. And so we're gonna move. So let's talk a little bit more because we're very wrestling related right now with the general and yourself. How did this all start for you? Because
for me, we're gonna have to go way back. My dad was a building contractor, and back in the day, Jim Crockett Promotions was the promotion in the Carolinas, and they were builders. So my dad started working on some apartments that Jim Crockett was building in the Raleigh area before they moved their whole operation to Charlotte. And when he would send checks, he would send wrestling tickets to his shows out at the Dorton Arena and the TV tapings at TV Studio 5 in Raleigh. These were not just regular tickets, man. These were all pass tickets. So as a kid, I got to go to these shows, and I could go in the back, and I started hanging out with these guys, and I started watching them. I'm like, wait a minute, these guys back here are playing cards. But 20 minutes ago, they were trying to kill each other. What is going on? But I got to hanging out with all these guys, and I would end up taking their gear from the ring to the back, like, whatever they wanted me to do, because they gave me these all access passes as a kid. Would give them to my dad. My dad would take me. And so I went to these shows at an early age, and I was exposed to the business. And then I just fell in love with it. As I grew up, I was always a wrestling fan. My wife, our first date was to wrestling, Jordan Arena in Raleigh. I mean, what else were I going to care? And I didn't know if I could do that full time as a living. But I was always interested in being a police officer. So I went to school and become a police officer. And it was during that I started. I met some guys. I was training mixed martial arts back before UFC, back before it was ever popular. And the UFC and everything like mixed martial arts was illegal in North Carolina. You couldn't do full contact fighting. So this guy named Seth that we were training with in Sanford, we went to Virginia to do a fight. And man, I'm thinking, I was cocky. I shouldn't have been cocky. And I almost got my arm ripped out of my socket in like 0.5 seconds. Man, that crap hurt, man. Them boys, that was the hurt game. And I was like, you know what? I don't think I'm cut out for full contact fighting. But there was a guy there. He says, man, where are you from? I said, I live halfway between Fayetteville and Raleigh, North Carolina. He goes, you ever consider doing pro wrestling? I said, I would love to, but I don't know how to get into it. I've been exposed to the business when I was younger. He goes, I got a number and a guy for I got a number and a name for you. Call this guy when you get back to North Carolina. And I did. And it was Steve Carino. Steve Carino at the time was over in Japan. He was in ECW. His dad's ring, a wooden freaking ring, man, no metal part. It was all wood, was set up in Hope Mills, North Carolina in this guy's backyard. So yeah, it was backyard training. Nightstick Eddie Brown. I don't know if you remember Nightstick.
I do remember Nightstick, yeah.
Yeah, Eddie McCoy was Steve's first trainee. He says, come down here. We're going to start training you with him and Timber the Lumberjack. If you remember Donnie, Timber the Lumberjack.
I remember Timber very well, yeah.
And so I went down there and started training. And Steve couldn't train, but maybe about a month. He had to go back overseas to Japan for New Japan, and he was busy with. They just put the strap on him in ECW, so he kind of stepped out. So I started under him, and Eddie and Timber took me under their wings. And man, I just trained with those guys. Well, trained. They beat the crap out of me for 6 months, man. They tore me up. And but man, I loved it. I loved every bit of it. And another guy started training with us. His name was Josh Rawls, and they were going to say, you guys need to be a tag team before you start doing singles. So they come up with this gimmick. He says, come up with a good gimmick. All right. So we were going to be the Mutabi brothers. What the hell is the Mutabi brothers? Not at the Roxbury. What is love? That was going to be our gimmick. Come out with these two cocky guys with these silky shirts on, doing our head to what is love. First show, the very first show, we get there, we see the posters, and our names aren't on the posters. And I come up to Eddie, and I'm like, man, I don't think the promoter put our names on the. He goes, no, you are on the show. I know, I got you on the show. The promoter come up and says, oh, the Mutabi brothers, y'all here. Yeah. He said, no, the Gambino brothers, you're here. And I'm like, Gambinos? Now he's talking about Gambinos. The promoter could not remember what Eddie told him. Never wrote it down. So he put us on the posters as the Gambinos. Dude, the closest I ever got to being Italian is eating Pizza Hut buffet on Tuesday nights. So we were the Gambinos. We go out and work this gimmick as these Italian tough guys, the Gambinos. Funny thing happened after that. For 6 months, we were booked as the Gambinos because other promoters needed some tag teams back then. Says, hey, yeah, what about those Gambinos, those Italian dudes? Dude, we never set out to be Italians, Gambinos, or number. We got booked for 6 months straight as the Gambinos and never even tried. It was crazy. It just happened.
I mean, sometimes gimmicks just get handed to you by accident, though, you know?
Exactly. And then we were going to break up and fight each other. And then Donnie Timber, I remember it very well. This was in Fayetteville, Fayetteville 71st. He initiated us to work singles, which meant we got put through tables and got chair shots by Donnie. And that was a night. And that's how it started, man. That was I worked as a police officer, and every weekend, man, I was on the road wrestling every single weekend. And I did it for years until I got cancer. Went through my cancer treatment, and man, as God's witness, man, God healed me, man. God supernaturally healed me. And I had to retire from police work because the state of North Carolina will not allow you to carry a handgun if you have peripheral neuropathy, which you lose feeling in your hands and arms. And I totally understand that. I loved my job. I did not want to leave my job, but I had to. After I retired, I started my artwork full time, which has done very well. And I went into wrestling pretty much full time for up until 3 years ago when I ripped my tricep in a match. And that's when I finally called it quits.
Wow, I mean, that's quite a transition there. Now, let me ask you this, because you're talking about being a tag team called the Gambinos. When did Krash the Milkman come out?
When we started to doing singles, Eddie says, you need a new name. You're not going to go with the Gambinos. And Donnie says, yeah. So my very first singles match, I come out. I didn't know what to call myself. I love Batman. He's the Dark Knight. I come out of the Blue Knight. I didn't know. I had to make up something because we thought we were going to work tag that night. They said, no, you're working singles. Pick a name. On the spot, I just come up, I don't know, the Blue Knight. The Blue Knight for one match. And Donnie come up to me, Timber says, man, that's not you. It's just not working. He goes, holy shit, dude, I should have thought of this. Look, you're drinking milk. You're always drinking milk back here. You know, you don't drink sodas. You're drinking milk. You could be the milkman. That's how it came out. But you know, you need a first name. Like he'd come up with all these names, and I said, well, what about Krash the Milkman? He goes, yeah, but let's use a K. And that's how it came about. Right there, I was drinking milk in the back behind the show. And the rest is history.
You're brave for drinking milk before the matches, man. That could go sideways pretty bad.
That's what was my stomach more than anything. Always, man. I've always been, milk has always settled my stomach. Okay. All right, now I'm going to have to do a promo on you. You sound like one of those lactose intolerance individuals. But you know what, buddy? We make fake milk for you. It's that almond milk. But don't ask me how we milk almonds because I've never seen teeth from an almond.
I mean, I do drink some almond milk in my protein shake, so you got me on that one. But I do drink some skim milk. No. So then somewhere in between there, you fit painting into your, I'm gonna say your many talents that you have. So, and I know the listeners can't see the paintings behind you. Yeah.
I've always loved art, and I took a private art lesson when I was like 7 years old. Believe it or not, like one summer, like sometimes parents try to find stuff for their kids to do during summer break, and you need to go over here and take this art. I didn't want to, but I fell in love with it. I loved it. I've always loved drawing, loved animation, loved drawing, loved painting. And my whole life, I've always kept sketch pads where I would just sketch. You know, I would see stuff and I would just sketch, write down things and just sketch, kind of like a sketch journal, if you will. And I've done that my whole life. I mean, here are tons of my journals. I've kept them all. And I go back into that and read about my past, and those were where I pull my ideas from a lot of my artwork from. And I just started painting, and somebody says, you need to start thinking about selling some of those. So I contacted some galleries. I got in, and I did not know that people really tried hard to get into galleries because I wasn't into that part of the business of art. But within a year, I found myself in galleries in Beaufort and Wilmington and Greensboro and Raleigh. I was in these galleries. I was selling art. So I opened a studio on Glenwood South in Raleigh back when 2009, 8, when I had to take some time off from wrestling to deal with my cancer. I would go to my studio and do my art because wrestling is a creative outlet. And I'm a creative type person. And if you're a creative type person, you got to have some kind of outlet, whether it's your art, whether it's wrestling, whether it's whatever it is that you do, music making, storytelling. You got to have that outlet. I couldn't do wrestling. Physically could not do it. So I poured myself into my artwork, and that was my creative outlet. And it was very successful. I ended up closing my studio in Raleigh because at that time Raleigh was doing the whole downtown revitalization, and the artists had made it real fun to come to First Fridays in Raleigh. All the studios were open. It was an amazing time. But what they did, they started selling all those properties. The prices skyrocketed, and they outpriced all the artists out of there. Today, back then, there was probably 30, 35 studios that would open on Friday nights, and everybody would go all of these galleries. We'd have a great time. Today, there may be 3 or 4 galleries left downtown Raleigh.
That's a
They've
shame.
outpriced them,
Yeah.
and the artists just cannot simply afford it. All in the name of economic development.
Yeah, it's supposed to be better for us, more expensive. I don't think I don't understand the math on that one, brother. So
Yeah, well, it happened. I mean, if you go downtown Raleigh today, the Glenwood South area, it's hardly unrecognizable in what it was, 10 years ago, even.
yeah,
Crazy. I moved all my art to my little studio here in my behind my house in my shed. I call it my shed. And I did something else too. I left galleries. I pulled all my art out of galleries because at the time, gallery owners were starting to piss me off, some of them, because they were only wanting stuff that sells. You have limited wall space, and the industry standard is a 60-40 split. They get 40, you get 60, which is pretty steep. And you have to paint what they want you to paint, what they think will sell. And that just took a lot of the creativity and fun out of it. So now I'm here. I sell online. I am on fineartamerica.com. You can search Keith Adams on fineartamerica.com. It's a link on my Instagram to that page. I sell my prints there. I sell originals at pop-up venues and on Etsy and a few places. So I'm doing good. I'm happy.
and that's what it is, man. That's the American dream. Kind of giving a little wrestling reference to that as well. But for those, because nobody will be able to see this video, you and I are here, we're having a conversation. Behind you, I see some paintings. So what style of paintings do you do? What do you paint?
Um, Here is some I just started. These are 3, and that's going to be I don't know what it's going to be. But I do abstract florals, abstract landscapes, abstract people. There's some of my florals. Uh, I love nature. I love nature, and a lot of it's nature inspired. But it's not realism. I don't do portraits, realistic portraits. Because I love the colors. I love the mystery. I love to keep people guessing, like, well, what's behind that hill? What's going on over here with these 2 people that are shadowy people? What's going on over here? I think a painting for me needs to leave a few questions when people look at it, like, well, what really is going on over here? And that's the mystery of what I like to try to include in my artwork.
And what is the last piece that you completed?
The last piece that I completed, that is a good question. I, 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 I just framed this guy. If you can see this guy,
Yes.
that is a crow with a bunch of Chinese symbols painted onto it with abstract looking window with a circle around it. Is that circle a target? Is it zeroing in on the bird? What is it? We don't know. But it's actually, I like it. It's pretty cool. And when I looked at it and said, wow, I knew it was finished.
Awesome, man. Because I see also in the background something with yellow colors back there too. Because you have a whole stack of things back there, man. Because you've been pretty damn busy.
Oh, dude, I'm going to show you around. That's currently on my easel. This is going to be a very abstract version of the Last Supper. That's the windows. That's the long table. That's a commission for a couple wants me to paint that for them. So that's currently on my easel. I've got a lot of stuff back here. Oh gosh, man, I know I'm getting your dizzy now. It's a lot of different things. My Dr. Seuss Christmas.
I think you froze there for a second, man. I think
Yeah,
there you
there
go.
we go.
There you go. You're back now.
Dr. Seuss style Christmas trees. I did a lot of them. Just a lot of stuff with nature, man. Just whether it's the trees, flowers, the mountains, the beach, my backyard, my front yard, frogs, birds. I think a lot of times nature is the most amazing artist, man. We had a sunset last night. If I could have captured that and painted that, it would have been gold. So
And you just right off the top of your head, you just start painting these things, right?
I do. I come up with a composition and then a color scheme. What colors do I want it to be? Do I want it to be monochromatic? Do I want to go with a color wheel, or do I want it to be primary blues or reds or greens? And then you start from there. You just start putting paint down. When I start seeing the paint, that guides me. I know it sounds kind of weird. There's no pre-drawn diagrams. There's no pre-drawn people, persons, anything. It's all done as I paint, kind of intuitive. And sometimes an abstract landscape will start out, it will become a floral. Sometimes trees start out as trees and it becomes people. It's just, I call that the journey of the painting. The painting will take you on this journey where it wants to go.
Awesome. It's almost in a way almost supernatural.
Yeah, I'm very freeform with that. It's not rigid sets of rules. You have to follow the golden the golden section where that's if you ever went to art school. I've taken some art classes. They pound the golden section into you where a canvas or a paper is divided into 4 sections, and one of them, the golden spot, has to be the focal point. It's nothing like that. I don't subscribe to all that.
No, everybody has their style. Even in wrestling, people have their own styles, and then because I mentioned something because you're talking about the painting and the brushes, they'll guide you, and I said something to the effect that it's kind of supernatural in a way, which it was the best way I could do to segue into something different because let's talk about mysteries across North Carolina and your time with being a investigating the paranormal. Now, did you ever intend to become a paranormal investigator, or was it just something just out of experiences in your own life?
I have had a very significant, if you call it paranormal experience, where I actually heard the voice of God. People will not believe me. I don't care. I know what I heard. And then I know what I've seen. I have seen some things. And it started out that me and the general, as a joke, was going to, when we were doing all these videos, we're still doing some of these videos, that we were feuding with these people in Sanford too, these other 2 managers. They call themselves the wrestling pimps. They dress like pimps from the 70s and they do this stupid forecast called, we're pimping the weather out. So we started selling weather rocks to kind of combat what they were doing. And we started this online feud with the weather pimps. And so it started from that and evolved that we were going to solve all of North Carolina's paranormal activities. It was the weather pimps, the devil's tramping grounds. The devil's pimps, the weather pimps would show up at night and pull you out of the circle. The Mako light. This wasn't the ghost light. That was the weather pimps down on the tracks rolling dice at night. And that's how it started. It was going to be a joke with these guys that when we solved them, it was all them. The brown mountain lights, the weather pimps running through the mountains at night with flashlights playing grab ass. That's what it was going to be. As we got into this, man, I started researching and I started thinking back in my own life. And I got a crazy, he passed away, Uncle Charlie, God rest your soul. He passed away last year. But he always told me he saw UFOs over my house. I'm like, you're drunk, you're crazy. He told everybody that he would see these lights above my house. And I started thinking, my grandfather said he used to see the lights. My uncle, who's still alive, said he used to see the lights. And then I saw the lights. I guess the new word for them is UAPs.
Yeah.
But they're light orbs. And these things defy physics. They defy physics. So whatever they are, and I have my opinion, I honestly believe they're interdimensional beings. What are interdimensional beings? Well, I believe they're angelic or demonic. Take your pick. Some people may not agree with me, and that's fine. That's my opinion. The reason I say I think they're interdimensional beings, angelic or demonic, is because they fly in ways that are physically impossible for our aircraft to maneuver. And I think that's been captured on film. Actually, it's been released recently by the U.S. Navy and some of those things. We're getting proof. There's been congressional hearings lately, this past year, on UAPs. And I think that there's a lot more there that we don't know that the government knows.
Yeah, and I have no doubt about that. And I know that sometimes when we tell stories to each other, we have a lot of fun. There's a lot of humor involved. So let me ask you, with your batting average of, I'll say, solving the cases or at least trying to explain away some of these things, you're almost like the reverse unsolved mysteries, because they don't have a very high rate of solving anything, just a few things. So how did you go about, I mean, because every case is different, every experience is different. How did you go about at least making sense out of what's happening or what went on?
Well, since we're talking, I'm going to share a story with you. I was in law enforcement, and I was hired by Cary Police Department, and they assigned me to the U.S. Marshal Service full time for 5 years on the Fugitive Task Force, which I loved that job. There's a lot of travel, long hours, but I loved it. And while I was on this task force with the U.S. Marshal Service, I've never been sick in my life. I've always been very physically active, wrestling, everything, staying in shape, eating well. Started getting sick, colds, couldn't quite shake them. And toward the end of that stint, I had a few broken bones, finger, rib. Still didn't quite know what was going on. But toward the end of my stint with the Marshal Service, we assisted a local police department with a horrific case. This was horrible. A guy left work one day, unexpectedly went and picked up his 5-year-old daughter from preschool and took her home. And I will spare you the details, but murdered her viciously and fled. When the mother came home, discovered her daughter. Of course, the police got there. He's on the run, so that's what my team done. We find people that are on the run. We were called in. We started tracking him. We tracked his phone to RDU. We found his truck parked at RDU with his phone in his truck, so we knew he just dumped his phone. But from there, we started doing financial trackings. We got a court order to do emergency financial trackings. Found out that he had purchased a flight from there to Charlotte Douglas, to Charlotte. From Charlotte, he bought a flight from there to Reagan International in D.C. when he got to DC, he did something weird. He went into the subway and went down to a leather store like Wilson's Leathers and bought like a $500 leather coat. And then he went and checked into Capitol Inn, a hotel right beside the U.S. Capitol. So we had him. We had him in a room. We contacted the guys in D.C. and we head up there and we hit the place. The guy's naked, jumping up and down on the bed. It's like 4 a.m. Just he's yelling, saying, you know, God told me to kill my daughter. God told me to come up here and kill this certain senator. Well, here we are, 4 a.m, wrestling a naked, sweaty guy on the bed. It's just crazy. And not what I really wanted to be doing. But we get him in custody. And on the way back to North Carolina, me and some of my teammates were talking. We're driving, decompressing, so to speak. I said, man, do you believe that God really told him to kill us? I said, absolutely not. I said, one or two things. The guy is actually mental. He's got some mental health issues, and or if he actually heard a voice, it was demonic. God was not going to tell you to go kill your daughter and then kill a senator. You know, it's absolutely a demonic influence, or, you know, his mental state. I don't know. But God doesn't tell you to kill people. Had a couple of days off after that, so I'm home. My little son is about 3 years old. Him and my wife are gone. And I'm sitting in the house by myself, and I pull up on the computer a study of the Hebrews, of Moses, 10 Commandments. And I was just sitting there talking out loud to God, you know, hey, do you really talk to people audibly anymore like you did to Moses? Man, I'm jealous. And this is I'm jealous. I want to hear your voice. I believe you exist, but I want to hear your voice. Do you still talk to people like you did to Moses? And I still get emotional today just telling this story. I felt a hand on my shoulder. The most beautiful, reassuring voice I've ever heard in my life said, I am here. It startled me so much that I jumped up to turn around to see who was behind me. There was nobody there. Nobody. I left that room where my computer was at, walked the house. My wife and son had not got back home. I was there by myself. I come back down and sit in that chair, and I cried because God just gave me that mountaintop experience, and I didn't have the faith to believe it. And that voice didn't come from behind me. It came from right here in the center of my chest. And it scared me so bad that I wasn't afraid. It was a startlement. 6 months later, I'm sitting in the oncologist's office with my wife. He says, you have stage 3 multiple myeloma. There is no cure. This was a Wednesday. He says, by Friday, I want you on chemotherapy. You're already breaking bones. Multiple myeloma is a blood cancer. It's in the leukemia family. There is no cure for it. And I was at stage 3 because I was already breaking bones. My back went completely out. I couldn't walk. That's when I had to stop wrestling. I actually took sick leave at work, and I went through heavy chemotherapy. They said I had to have a stem cell transplant. So I was lucky enough that I was able to harvest my own stem cells. I went through that process. They go in at UNC Cancer Hospital, do some amazing things, and they clean them, and then they put them back into you. And you have to be in the hospital. I was in the hospital for 30 days in their cancer unit in a surgically sealed room where nobody could visit you, because when they take your stem cells out and give you brand new stem cells, you have no immune system. So you're susceptible to anything. I went through that. It took me a stem cell transplant takes about a year to fully recover. At the end of that year, they said, I need another one. So I went through it again a second time. I had a second stem cell transplant. And a year later, I'm back healthy enough to be able to go to work. They put me in communications. I'm not able to go on the road. And at that time, they said, I'm going to have neuropathy. I'll never carry a gun again. I need to take a medical retirement. And man, I was crushed. Because I love my job, man. I love the people I work with. I didn't want to retire, but I took a medical retirement because it's the best thing for me and my family. And here's where I'm going with that story. When I was sitting in that oncologist office with my wife, and he said, "You have stage 3." That voice spoke to me again right in my sternum. He said, "I am here." It was the same exact voice I heard 6 months later. I didn't know why he told me that 6 months prior, says, "I am here." But when I heard it that day, I knew without a shadow of a doubt why he said what he did. And in God's word, the Bible, it says he will give us a sense of peace that surpasses all understanding. Brother, I did not understand it, but I had this sense of peace that I could not explain. Somehow, some way, I knew I was going to be okay. Here I am. It is 2025. I healed. I never had surgery on my back. I had 5 compression fractures in my back. Never had surgery. I healed so tremendously that I went back into wrestling pretty much full time up until 3 years ago when I ripped my tricep in a match. Um, that's how I know God is real. He healed me. It was a journey. It was a process, and it was amazing. And I'll tell anybody that. And that's pretty much my first real experience with the supernatural when I experienced it myself. Nothing I read, nothing somebody told me. It's what I experienced. All these lights that my uncle, my grandfather used to see around my house. Started talking to some of my family members. There's an old graveyard close to me over there. And they said those lights would emanate from that graveyard. I don't know if they do or not, but I've seen them in the air. And they're light orbs. They are, and they go straight. They make 90-degree turns. They disappear. I don't know what they are, but I honestly feel that they're interdimensional beings, angelic beings. And that's my opinion.
No, and that's fine. I mean, you experienced it. You saw what you saw, and going back to, and I want to be careful how I ask this question because of what you just told me. When you heard that voice, and you said it came within, and did you hear this voice? Was it externally or was it from the internal? Like, did you hear it in your own head, or did you hear like if I were to be talking to you next to you?
It sounded as if somebody was standing behind me, but it came from within me. That's why it startled me so much. And I jumped up to see what was behind me, but there was nobody there. And then when I heard it in the doctor's office, my wife didn't hear it, the doctor didn't hear it, but I heard it just clear as day, clear as you and I talking. And that's the only
And it
two
was the
times
same voice, both.
the same voice, the same words, "I am here." And that was it. I am here.
Now, with the tone of the voice, can you, and if it's even explainable, how did it sound like? Was it a deep voice? Was it like a
No, it was
calming?
it was a male voice, masculine voice, but it was the most loving and calming voice. It's hard to describe that. The most loving and calming and reassuring voice I've ever heard in my life, if that makes sense. It was just this. When I said that scared me, it was because I was startled. The voice didn't scare me. The fact that someone spoke to me scared me. The voice itself was the most loving voice I've ever heard in my life.
And ever since then, have you heard it again since then?
Only that second time sitting in the doctor's office, and that's it. And
And
he said the
actually,
same
I
thing.
I
I
think
am here.
that's actually enough times to. I mean, it was life changing to say the least.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And it was life changing for me. It made me helped me appreciate the little things in life. And that's when I poured myself back into my art right after that. And just started getting really involved with that when I couldn't wrestle, when I was going through my cancer treatments, and it just made me appreciate nature, the beauty of this world, the little things.
And I think a lot of us are hopefully get to that stage one day we can actually stop being so busy and appreciate life around us, what it's there, nature. I mean, you got birds, you got mountains, you got dogs, you got cats, and I know those are small things, but those are the things that we're talking about that we all take for granted in a way. And now with
Yeah.
with that, and as if you could be even more busy. You and I have a good friend in common with Jeb Shook, or I still call him Dice, an
Rolling
author,
dice.
Roland Dice, an author, martial artist, and I
Yeah.
just saw him recently over the summer. I haven't seen him since 2009, since Power Pro Wrestling. You guys have been working on something that I don't know how you guys were able to, I guess, get these roles, but what do you guys have been doing? Because I know that you had to get up pretty early on Sunday and drive all the way to where in Carolina for this?
Yeah, down to right at. You're familiar with everybody that's ever driven 95 North and South Carolina have seen the billboards from 100 miles away. Pedro's Playland, south of the border. There's a little teeny town right there called Roland, North Carolina, and Sunday film crew. Well, they won't be rolling in Sunday. They'll probably already set up. We start filming a supernatural series called Broken Raven in Roland, North Carolina. And Jeb and myself are going to be kind of like lead zombies. We're called tracker zombies in this series. It's kind of a military view on a zombie apocalypse type deal. And they're filming 6 episodes, and we start filming Sunday. We're looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. Uh, in fact, Jeb told me last night, he goes, "Man, I get to eat people with you this weekend." Oh, okay.
Hey,
So,
you can't do that at Fort Bragg, though. You gotta be
oh,
careful.
no, 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 no. We are not going through Fort Bragg. And the general is not with us because he's got that chupacabra disease going on. He was going to be there. He was going to be a zombie, but he's got that chupacabra disease, mange crap going on with his beard that he's actually bowed out. So it's just going to be me and Jeb, rolling dice as I call him. I've known him a long time. Known him a long time.
Yeah, me too. He was I met him first. I don't even know when I met him. I'm gonna say it was very early 2000 in Roxborough, North Carolina, and
Oh
him and
my God!
I.
Hold on. Cat Whitlow.
That's the one I seen on television.
Cat Whitlow. PCW.
Yes, yes, PCW, and
We probably ran into each other and didn't know each other back then, but I was a PCW back then with Cat Whitlow up that Roxborough Armory.
yeah, back then I looked a lot younger, had nice long hair, and we,
Yeah.
him and I we did 2 months. He did a show like every other month, but every time I went to the first couple of shows I did, we opened up the show, and I loved every second of it. And a lot of great guys at that time. Then some of them mostly either retired by now, or maybe one or two are still doing it.
Yeah, but man, the early 2000s, the late 90s and early 2000s, man, those were the best times in the wrestling business. There were shows every weekend somewhere. And it was just, the locker rooms were great. The camaraderie was great. It was just, it was a good time to be in the business, man. It really was.
It was. It was kind of like in a way the dark ages of indie wrestling, because the only time unless you went to the shows and then, or if you could bug your wife or girlfriend to tape a show that with a camcorder. I mean,
Yeah.
there was no YouTube. You had to actually either go to the shows or tape trade or go through the buy them off online, like these bootleg wrestling videos.
Actually, funny you said that. There was in fact, Jeb sent this to me. I did not know it existed. It was on some indie wrestling website that archives matches. And he said, "Man, here's a match of you in Robbins, North Carolina, like in 2001 for New Frontier Wrestling." And I looked at it, I was like, "Holy crap, I didn't even know there was a tape of this." So I watched it and I posted it, the link on my Facebook and my Instagram page. And it was pretty cool to see that. It was taped by some 8mm cam you could tell back in the day, and somebody converted it to digital. I had no idea. But I just posted that probably 3 months ago, an old match like that. Yeah.
Awesome, man. And looking back, it's some of the best times I ever had, and I don't think I would ever change a thing. To tell you the truth.
Yeah, it's met a lot of really fun people, a lot of cool people. Been to a lot of cool places. Some places I wouldn't go back again. Some promoters I would not work for again. But all in all, man, like you said, I don't think I would change a thing.
Not at all. $20 paydays and a hot dog. You might be
If,
lucky if you even
if
get
you
the
got
hot dog.
if you got $20.
Yeah. Well, now for the listeners of the show that they want to learn more about you, where to get your paintings, and perhaps maybe eventually catch you on a TV show eating people as a zombie, where can they find out about this? How can they get a hold of you?
Look up Broken Raven on Instagram and Facebook. In fact, I will send you a link to this when we get off. And it's a new series that they are just starting to film this week, and they're going to try to get it picked up either by Netflix or Amazon. And you'd ask me how we got into that. My nephew was in Wilmington. There's a lot of productions going on in Wilmington, and he does a lot of grip work behind the sets on a lot of these shows. And so he knows a lot of people. And I told him I was interested in getting into doing stunt work and extra work. So kind of hooked me up with that, and here we are.
Excellent. I think, is it still around? I think Wilmington, was it Screen Gems, the big one there?
Yeah, it slowed down a lot when the legislature removed all their funding, or not funding, but their parks. But it's slowly coming back. There's quite a few. I mean, the Outer Banks, OBX on Netflix. It's not filmed in the Outer Banks. It's filmed in Charleston and Wrightsville Beach and Carolina Beach and Cure Beach. So there's quite a bit of filming starting to come back. Halloween Kills was just in Wilmington last year. So yeah, you're starting to get more and more to come back. So a lot of it went to Georgia, South Carolina. Georgia really, really busy. But it's starting to come back.
Awesome, and and I'm happy both of you are out there living the dream. And before we go, will you be doing any more investigating in the paranormal field, or are you just gonna keep doing your painting? And oh yes, you are. Okay, so here's what I like to do. I'd like to bring you back later this year, and if you guys give us the reports of what you've seen, and also next time we'll do a video. We're gonna display all your artwork, and then we'll talk about that. And man, I'd love to have you back.
Hey man, I've enjoyed it. I'd love to be back, and maybe the general can join us next time if he gets rid of this mange.
So, I would love to, my friend. Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.
You're tuned in to Let's Find Out with Diego, brother. Diego Mania running wild on you.
Yeah, I can. Give me okay. So, Krash, before we go, I think I rang the bell too early. Let's talk about. Oh, I know. The ref counted to 3, and my shoulder got up in 2 and 3 in 99 seconds. Let's talk about you're a rap artist now. You lay down some tracks. How did you even start this?
Well, again, being a creative type person, and when you can't wrestle and we can't do certain things, your creative outlet it just flows. You're a creative type person yourself, and so you're producing all these podcasts and different things. So you have to still have that creative outlet. Well, me and the general, as we talked earlier, were having this feud with the Russian assassin. How could we get one over on him? Pull like a good practical joke. And the general says, we should sing a song about it. Of course, he was kidding. I'm like, that's a great idea. So I found this app, and we recorded this song called Papa Russian. And I'm going to have to find it and send you the link to it. And we released it. My kids are embarrassed to death by it. A couple of their friends thought it was some black guys singing. That's me and the general. There might have been a little bit of synthesizer, just just a little bit of synthesizers in that. Not much, a little bit. But man, it was called Papa Russian. We talk about popping a Russian in the head and drinking milk and the milk being terrible in Russia. And it's a song dedicated to the Russian assassin. Our next song that we have written and we're fishing records is called Cane Shotting. The general walks with a cane and he hits people with a cane. He calls it a cane shot. So that next song is called Cane Shotting. And it just come natural to us. We did not write anything down. We recorded once and it was done and it was absolutely perfect. So we may just do away with the words we written down for Cane Shot and just ad-lib that one too. And I used to play a game with my kids. I'd say, give me any word and I'll make a rap about it. And they're like, no, you can't. I'm like, yes, I will. So I'm not Eminem by no means, but it's fun.
That's right. You're far more entertaining than Eminem, man. So I'll definitely look for that song. And I know because I would like to play it at the end of the show if I could find it. And gonna have a lot of fun listening.
Yeah. It's it was a lot of fun doing that. A lot of fun doing that. And we actually want to do more of that. So it was a lot of fun.
I think you should. And with that, I'm gonna quote the late great Gorilla Monsoon here, and we're gonna say, "Stick a fork in it, brother, because we're done."
We are done.
Let's find out with Diego, the power of Diego Mania. All content for Let's Find Out is property of co-host Diego and is served directly from our servers with no modification, redirects, or rehosting. All celebrity impersonators are paid performers. The impersonated celebrities do not endorse or promote any views or opinions expressed by our guests, co-host Diego, or Let's Find Out. The information shared on Let's Find Out is provided on an as-is basis, with no guarantees of completeness, accuracy, usefulness, or timeliness.